Bax, tell us, is the DA's only objection to the BELA Bill based on the language policy?
No, that's not the case. The DA's objection to the BELA Bill has few components to it. Number one, the bill seeks to take away school governing body powers from communities and parents that know what is best for their children. I did explain that it is the parents and communities that know how many children can be in a classroom so that they don't end up in an overcrowded classroom. Secondly, it's been proven world over that children that can read for meaning are children that are studying in their mother tongue. And it's important for school governing bodies to determine their mother tongue and their education, their language policy in their schools. Thirdly to that, this bill seeks to regulate online, it seeks to regulate homeschooling, which ultimately will add a cost to parents for them to get an independent assessor. It will have home invasions and ultimately takes away the responsibility of parents as the custodians of their children and make children the children of the state. The bill also fails to regulate online and blended learning. COVID-19 has taught us that online and blended learning is a new form of education that exists in the system, and ultimately it's important for us to have online and blended learning schools, and there must be policy and law that guides that. And ultimately, part of the major rejection of the bill, it does not address the systemic issues in the basic education sector. There are still children that are dying in pit toilets. Children don't have the adequate infrastructure in schools. There are no libraries. There are no labs. Then they are forced to go into a classroom standing in front of teachers that are unqualified, failing exams for the very same subjects that they need to teach. And we believe that these are the issues that the law and policy should be focusing on rather than trying to take away power from schools, from parents, and centralizing control.
Yeah. Bax, we know that there's a lot of civil organizations that are not only here today but support our fight against the BELA Bill. Has the public been consulted in terms of this piece of legislation?
Definitely, at a very expensive cost, over almost 900 million rand. They've been consulted through public hearings in different provinces, ultimately written submissions, but they've been completely ignored. So it's been an expensive exercise that the ANC has pushed through the bill in committee without considering the public's views. Majority of the people objected to Clause 4, which is admissions policy, Clause 5, which is language policy, Clause 14 and 16, which talks to SGB powers, Clause 21 that talks to centralization of procurement, and ultimately Clause 37 that talks to home education and homeschooling. And the public in their majority, 18,000 South Africans, rejected the BELA Bill in comparison to the 14,000 that supported it. So yes, they've been consulted, but no, they've been ignored because that consultation was just an expensive exercise that Parliament conducted, and ultimately it has counted for nothing, and that's why the bill is in the House today.
Literally a tick box exercise. Bax, can you tell us what is the DA's alternative to the current proposed legislature?
Look, the alternative should be getting good quality education for all South African children. Whether a child is born in Khayelitsha, Kamgqobosho, or the city of Cape Town, they must be able to access good quality education across the board. How do you go about doing that? Make sure that you put systems in place for children to be able to read for meaning, and make sure that they study in their mother tongue, ultimately to improve the depth of knowledge, one. Number two, the ability for them to be able to read for meaning. And thirdly, to make sure that they get a good quality teacher in front of the classroom to give them the skills and knowledge they require to participate in the economy. Education is about making sure that children are able to ultimately participate in the economy, change the circumstance of their birth, and ultimately live a prosperous life. And that's what the policy should be aiming to do. Yep. Fixing infrastructure. Children mustn't die in pit toilets. That's what we're talking about in terms of policy, and the law must be responsive to that and the innovations that come with it.
Get help registering to vote at check.da.org.za. Register to rescue South Africa.